So today it's Tim Kopra, Tim Peake, and Yuri Malenchenko wrapping up a 6-month mission to the International Space Station. 1 year and 1 week ago, NASA astronaut Terry Virts was in their place, finishing his role as station commander for Expedition 43 and returning to Earth after 200 days in space. Terry Virts is here with us in Mission Control to lend some perspective about what it's like to finish this assignment. Tell me what things you have to do to get yourself and your spacecraft ready to go.
It's a pretty involved process. It takes a few weeks. Of course, you have to pack all your things, and the Soyuz is very small, and so they have to be very tightly packed, labeled, and placed in the right spot. And the Soyuz commander Yuri has been really busy for the last week or two, finding every little nook and cranny in the Soyuz and putting things in the exact right place. It's important to put them in the right spot because if the capsule has too much stuff on the right side or too much stuff on the left side, it won't fly properly through the atmosphere. So it's a bit of an involved process.
Sounds a little bit tedious and a lot of work to do, but I'm sure exciting.
Well, it's bittersweet because you've lived in space, you're there with your crewmates, and you're excited to come back to Earth to see your friends and family. But being in space for so long, you know that you're going to miss it, and so it's a bittersweet time.
So that's kind of the point that you realize that this is real. After 200 days, you really realize that you're coming home.
Yeah, it's bizarre to be living in space and then coming back to Earth. For me, the transition happened so quickly. When I got back to Earth, I was back to Earth. I recognized things. The day after I landed, I went car shopping with my son. He had turned 16 while I was in space, and so it was kind of strange to be, off the planet and then all of a sudden back to Earth, and it was an immediate mental transition for me.
I imagine it is. So let's talk about that trip home to Earth. So like you were at this point last year, neither Kopra nor Peake had ever come back to Earth in a Soyuz spacecraft before now. So were you eager for the experience, and can you tell me what exactly is that trip like?
Yeah, I just sent them an email to let them know my experience. So I was there with Scott Kelly, who had flown on the Soyuz before, and I had flown on the shuttle, but it's a lot different than a Soyuz. So he gave us the briefing that when the parachutes come out, it's several minutes of just crazy roller coaster, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I mean, you're spinning around. You haven't felt gravity for half a year or more, and that is an amazing ride. As you hit the atmosphere, the Soyuz capsule actually splits into three parts. So you hear banging and explosions as your vehicle separates from itself. There is a thermal blanket that is wrapped around the vehicle that burns off, and so part of your spaceship just comes burning off and rips off from around you. There's plasma going by your window, and if you look out, there's this 4,000 degree fireball coming past you. So the whole thing is a crazy experience, and had Scott not briefed us on it, we would have thought we were going to die. But because we kind of knew what was coming, we had a great time. We were having a lot of fun. We were kind of hooting and hollering in the capsule, and it's like the best roller coaster ride you've ever been on in your life. And then the big parachute comes out, and for a few minutes you're sitting there, and you don't really know when the Earth's coming because the Earth's behind you and the window's up here, so you really can't see what's going on. There's some instruments, but they're not that accurate. And then, bam, there is the worst car crash you've ever been in. And when we hit, our Soyuz rolled over. So there was this gigantic crash and then rolled over. And I can remember things kind of going, and our capsule ended up upright. And anyway, so it was kind of an amazing experience, and it was a lot of fun. It's worth the 6 months in space just to get the return to Earth.
Yeah, so that sounds really amazing, and even more so amazing that you describe a car crash as fun.
The good news is we were safe afterwards. The Russians have a great system. The seat is custom molded to your back. There's kind of shock absorbers that it can go up and down on, and it only lasts, half a second or less. And so it's a great, robust system, and it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so now you're on the ground. Tell me what those first moments on the ground are like.
Excuse me. So being on the ground, of course, you're dizzy. You haven't felt gravity, and the Russian helicopters were waiting for us. Within minutes, they had landed next to us. The team, like a bunch of ants, surrounded us and were working, and I could peer out, and people were waving at me, and I was waving at them, and everything was fine. And because our capsule landed upright, that's kind of, you don't want it to do that because it's harder to get out. If it's on the side, these big burly guys come in and they just pull you out. But we had to actually climb out of the capsule. So I was sitting there looking around, everything was fine. And when it was my turn, I had to move over and climb up. And I can remember when I moved over, the world started spinning really fast. I mean, it was amazing how dizzy I felt. I was able to do everything. I was able to move. I was able to climb out on my own, and I was able to walk around afterwards. But the sensation of dizziness was pretty strong.
So how long after returning to Earth did you start to feel Earth normal?
So the first day, so physically, I did really well. I had muscles, all that stuff. Physically, I was strong. The dizziness the first day was pretty strong. It's a 24-hour flight. You land, get on a helicopter, get on an airplane. 24 hours later, we're back in Houston. So all during that flight, I could get up, I could walk around, but I was, like holding on to something or just kind of walking slowly. I got back to Houston, went to the gym for an hour and a half. And then, like I said, my son wanted to go car shopping, so I went with. I didn't drive; I was a passenger. But the second day wasn't too bad. The following day, I had to take my daughter to summer youth camp, so we drove for a couple hours, and so I was able to do all this stuff. But it was a few days of. The first day was really dizzy. The second day was sorta, and then after a few days, it was gone.
And you guys do a lot of exercise while you're up there on a daily basis, and that's to help mitigate the effects, the negative effects that the microgravity environment has on your bodies. Do you feel like that helped you?
I do, and I have a great story. That exercise that we do, both weightlifting and running on a treadmill and a bike and taking vitamin D, all of those things help me, I think, completely mitigate those problems for me. People have different, everybody's not the same, but the ability to do these things has shown that we can live in space for a long time and keep our bodies healthy and come back to Earth and function really well. So that exercise is super important. It's kind of like going to a health spa for 200 days. I mean, you get 2.5 hours of exercise scheduled a day. And I pretty much did that every day, and it was really important because it allowed me to come back to Earth in this. Gravity is strong, by the way. After not experiencing it, when you feel it for the first time, wow, this is a powerful force. And I was able to experience that, in good shape, healthy.
Excellent. So, real quick, the three guys that are coming home, the two Tims and Yuri Malenchenko, they are currently taking a nap because they're sleep shifting for their evening departure. Can you tell me real quick, just kind of all in all, what were your feelings? I know you talked about this kind of bittersweet feelings, but just hours before getting ready to come home. I mean, did you take a last-minute tour or look around or look out on the Earth, or what were your last moments?
I can remember that nap. I can remember that evening really well. I was basically on the same schedule that they are. And it was a little bit sad, but I was ready. I wasn't dying to leave, even though it had been over half a year, but I was happy to. It was kind of a mixed emotion, and I can remember going to the cupola. I took a lot of pictures. I like doing photography. And there was one more sunset. I love sunsets, and so I remember I got the camera set up a certain way. I took a picture, and it was just an awesome picture with kind of a starburst pattern. And I remember looking at it, going, "I'm done. No more pictures. I'm ready to go back to Earth." It was like my favorite picture I took in my whole 200 days, and I can remember that sense of, all right, that's the best picture I'm ever going to take. I'm done. Time to come home.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming out today. And also, I know you're on Twitter, so we can always go back and look at some of those fabulous pictures. Astro Terry on Twitter. Thanks again, NASA astronaut Terry Virts.
Thanks, Amiko, and looking forward to seeing the Tims and Yuri tomorrow.